Hello viewers, this is a very special day. We have early access to the new Forza Motorsport. 6 long years in the make and I can finally jump in to some gameplay. Get yourself subscribed, there's going to be plenty more videos in the run-up to the launch of the game. Over the course of this video, I want to mainly cover the topic of gameplay. Firstly with the Honda Civic, and also with this, the Ford Mustang. Okay, let's begin with the Honda Civic at a new circuit to Forza Motorsport, that of Grand Oak. So this is a 4-lap race starting from P12 on the grid, and this is part of the Builders Cup, which is the main single-player campaign mode in this installment of Forza. Now, I'm playing on controller, I'm playing with simulation steering, I'm playing with most assists off, ABS off, traction control off, and the AI is set to 6 out of 8 in terms of difficulty. And so based on all of that, you can see it's a bit of a mess actually on this opening lap. Bit of contact with this Mini, and we actually kind of get stuck on each other, and that is, I suppose, the first re-emergence, you could say, of the infamous Forza glue. Fairly chaotic opening lap here up against the AI, but the AI, they definitely seem quite lively and energetic, I think that's fair to say. Now let's take a closer look at this circuit as we pretty much bundle the Alpine out of the way. Now this Grand Oak circuit, this is the club version, one of the shorter versions, or the shorter version of this track. It's got a fairly fast and flowing outer perimeter, and then the middle part of the track is quite slow and cumbersome, quite a wide track as well. Now into the first corner, going flying into the back of the Supra, and I kind of wanted to test this, the contact physics. And the reason why I fishtail violently really is because of the sim steering. So having damage sensor on, you can see that it caused quite a lot of damage. I decided to exit and restart, and this kind of gives us another look at the AI at the start. And they were quite easy actually to overtake at the beginning, despite being set to 6 out of 8. I mean, yes, it could be harder, but they do tend to cluster up at the beginning, going towards the first corner, and you can kind of quite easily got the inside or the outside and overtake a good chunk of them. Once the race settles down though, and you get up towards the guys at the front, it does become a bit of a better race. And as you can see here, a nice little move up the inside of the other Honda Civic, going a little bit deep. And I must say the physics do feel a bit clunky at times, quite heavy, but then again this is a front wheel drive road car, so it isn't going to be the most agile thing on the planet. So heading on to the final lap, we can just have a nice clear lap here, trying to catch up with second place. And as I kind of briefly touched upon, the guys at the front of the pack, the AI here, are always, or seemingly always, very quick, and a lot quicker than the guys in the middle of the pack. So you'll have a good battle with the guys at the front, and not so much with the guys in the middle. I suppose it does depend on your pace. Depends on the difficulty you choose as well. In terms of the physics, it feels very much like quintessential Forza to me, and yes, they have built it up from the ground up, apparently. But to me, it kind of just feels like Forza, and there's nothing really wrong with that. I feel like it feels very approachable. It felt easy to jump in and give it a good go and be up to a decent speed quite quickly. So I felt comfortable playing it, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with the physics. I wouldn't say it's anywhere, near as simulation as iRacing, that's to say, but even GT7 I would say is a bit more sim than this, but I enjoy the physics. They're a good middle ground in terms of racing games in general, in terms of arcade or sim. It kind of sits slightly more to the sim side, but not much. Anyway, this was the Mustang around the same track. You see the AI having an absolute nightmare here, which is really strange. I don't know if that's scripted or what, but they all seem to make that same mistake, and that seemed to happen in all the sessions I did. So let's just change over here to the Mustang, which, of course, rear-wheel drive, and therefore very difficult or different to drive compared to the Honda Civic, which was front-wheel drive. And this was good to see. Right down the outside, as I said before, it's really easy to kind of do that, just go past a lot of them quite quickly. Deciding to start this one at the back of the pack with the new Builders Cup you do a practice of about 3 laps, and then you decide where you want to start. The further back you start, the more rewards you'll get for finishing further up. So it's kind of weird that you have to do a practice and then no qualifying, but then you decide where you start. It's kind of a weird way of doing it, rather than just having a qualifying session. But having said that, the format is still quite fun, and I will touch upon that in a further video. In this one, I just really wanted to touch upon the gameplay and how it feels, and how it feels to get rammed off by another Mustang user there. As it's definitely a case of the AI are, you know, very lively. They do move about quite a lot. They're aggressive. They're not robotic. Well, they can be, but they are also quite sometimes human-like, but sometimes quite silly and weird. They do like to be very inconsistent, just like me here, going very wide beyond the track limits. Speaking of track limits, and you see there's penalties at the top being applied, or at least being checked. I don't have the track limits turned on. You can do that with this game to tell you exactly where the edge of the track is. I prefer to race without that. And of course you have the constantly going FRR system at the top of the screen, where it's judging if you go wide or not, if you overtake people with contact, that kind of thing. Seem to work fine, and the penalties I've got, I mean, I've got a 1-second penalty in this race, and usually it's pretty fair. So the system, that system doesn't, I mean, I'm sure it is developed since Forza 7, but seems fairly similar to me. Crossing the line at the end of the 4-lap race to finish in P4. I then slightly upgraded the Honda Civic before jumping into the Mugello race around the club circuit. So as I said, you have to do 3 laps of practice, and it gives you a recommended lap time. I managed to beat that lap time after the 3rd lap, and normally that lap time is quite a good target. Before deciding to start in P8 and launching off the grid. Now here again, another case in point of the AI just clustering up on one side, and you can just easily go past them on the other side. You see they're getting lots of overtaking points, and we can touch upon that, I suppose, the fact that you have the constantly going car level points in the top right of the screen. And it does kind of gamify the idea of racing, where I suppose the main objective of a race is just to win, but then you have sort of lots of mini objectives of trying to overtake and set good sectors, and that can be a bit of a distraction. Depends how you look at it. For me personally, I didn't really mind it too much, didn't really think about it. Up the inside here of the Cadillac, it runs very wide and off the track, and this became actually a very good race, this one. I really enjoyed it, trying to catch up with the guy in the lead. Is it another Cadillac? I'm not quite sure. But you see here, this was really early into the gameplay, and I actually felt super comfortable with it. And it wasn't a super big development from Forza 7, I don't think, in terms of how this game feels. It really feels like your standard Forza, and that's not really, I'm not trying to say that in a bad way. I really think it's just like, hey, it's approachable. If you've played the previous Forza games, you'll feel at home here. It'll feel familiar to you. And I suppose if you're new to Forza, I think it's easy enough to pick up, and it's a good way to start in just getting a racing or sim racing experience on a console or PC. I suppose this game is on PC, so let's not forget that. This race hotting up here as we run onto the final lap, just trying to maximise the curbs here. In the Honda Civic, of course, it's front-wheel drive, so you have to kind of square off the corner. You see they're having some hesitation on the exit of the turn, as I hadn't really squared off the turn before accelerating. Lots of sort of understeer upon acceleration in this kind of car, so you do have to time that throttle application quite nicely depending on your angle through the turn. Coming into the final couple of corners here, and I just really carried a lot of speed through the second to last corner, running tiny bit wide, then diving up the inside with a sensational overtake. I did briefly go off the track just before overtaking him there, so it counted as a penalty, but it wasn't to matter anyway, as he went wide and I crossed the line with the penalty still in first place. So snatching away a sensational victory there at the Italian Grand Prix, the Honda boys back at the factory. Super happy with the effort. That was also on 6 out of 8 in terms of the AI. I seem to do a slightly better job, mainly because I upgraded my car, and that is something that they do recommend in the Builders Cup. That's why it's called Builders Cup. You've got to build your car. Now, this is the next race, Kyalami, in the Ford Mustang once again. A Kyalami, should I say. Lots of people corrected me in the previous video. And, of course, I'm just engagement farming, getting you to comment that I said it wrong. Anyway, this is a very fun track, and it's one that I've always enjoyed driving in the few games I've played it on, but I do enjoy it. And this is the 3-lap practice. And as we briefly mentioned just a moment ago about the gamifying of all these sectors and stuff, as you see at the top right there, segment score, good segment, personal best segment, car level up reward. Again, it can be a bit of a distraction, and this is just, I suppose, down to personal opinion. This new system of levelling up the car, and then based on the level, I mean, this car you see on the top right, I've got up to level 20 so far, up to a maximum of level 50. And you unlock parts for the car based on your car level. So you can't just buy every part you want for every car straight away. You have to level up the car to be able to start buying certain parts. Most parts you can get around sort of up to about level 25 and you've unlocked most things. But there are a couple where you have to be sort of level 46, that kind of level, but not many. So for the most part it's not too hindering. But I will touch upon this in a different video about the upgrade system. As I said, this one's about the gameplay. Dropping down the hill towards this fast, fearsome sweeping left-hander in the Ford Mustang, lifting off slightly. And we can talk about lifting off, because lifting off was very much a meta in terms of Forza gameplay. For those who are familiar with Forza Motorsport, you kind of just lift off the power, turn, and the car just rotates a lot better. And I'm experiencing that is also the case in this game. You lift off the power middle of the turn, the car turns, then you get back on the power. And it seems to be the fastest way to corner. And after a couple of laps here, 201.9, next lap was a 201.3, followed by a 201.4. So consistent. I was able to lap consistently, which I think is a good sign that I'm comfortable with the physics. So let's jump into the race. By this point it had turned to night time, and we can go from, where are we on the grid? Somewhere near the back. I'm guessing 16th. I should remember because it was me who did it. I'm 12th. That's not 16th. Anyway, that Subaru turns right on a straight as we're going to head in towards turn 1 against the AI who don't know how to utilise the track space, just rather queue up directly behind each other, lunging up the inside, and lucky to not send it into the back of that Cadillac and put him into barrier. So we lose a couple of positions there, being a bit overzealous on the brakes, whilst we level up to car level 22 into the back of this guy, who did nothing wrong to deserve that, but we're going to go past him anyway and move up into third. And I felt like, in terms of the sort of competitiveness of myself up against the AI, it was actually quite close for the most part. So I think turn 10 here, I've done a good job of trying to make the racing quite close. It does depend on how much you've upgraded your car, but I think as long as you somewhat upgrade your car slightly ahead of your opponents, then you're going to have a good race towards the front. Then again, I must say I'm not on difficulty 8 out of 8, and therefore maybe if I did that I would still be losing quite badly. So I'm rambling on, I do appreciate that, and as ever, please do get your comments in, any questions you might have. Also subscribe, because I'm going to be making lots more videos, and I just want to be as informative as possible, as I'm sure you have many questions. You know, this game has been in development for many years now, Forza Motorsport. It needs a good game. It needs a good game, and I feel like we have a good game here. A good game. I don't know if it's going to be a absolutely great game, but I think once we have the full release, we can get online and, you know, really experience the full entirety of Forza Motorsport, then we'll know for sure. So dropping into the final corner, this race was a very good one, as I was fairly evenly matched with the top two. As you can see here, just having a good battle, just having to turn out some consistent laps as we head towards turn 1. Trying to brake on, I think it's about 150, just, yeah, pretty much on there. Not really carrying the speed in, just turning in a bit too late. So I perhaps would have been better off trail braking in, lifting off the power, and then back onto the power on the exit. But the way this track is modelled is good. I think the nighttime looks spectacular. The graphics are good. Now YouTube doesn't always fully show that. So however you're seeing this on YouTube may not reflect the absolute quality you would personally have on your own monitor or TV at home, but for me it does look good, especially here at night. Now this race, it was a very static race. As you can see, I'm still in third and I just can't quite seem to get any closer to the top two. Perhaps guilty of over driving somewhat. As we turn right through this kink, you can really take a lot of the curb there. As this was quite strange, as I went up the inside and just really grazed past, and worryingly the stewards must have been looking the other way, because that was deemed as no offence and I got no penalty at all as we crossed the line. So that is my first look at the new Forza Motorsport, really just covering the gameplay and how it feels. As ever, if you have any questions, post them down below. There will be more videos on Forza Motorsport in the very near future, so thank you very much for watching. Have an amazing day, and I'll catch you next time. Goodbye.